She's been photographed with Donald and Melania Trump, Bill Clinton, Elon Musk, and Prince Andrew. The 63-year-old British socialite sits inside a Florida federal prison tonight, serving a 20-year sentence after a jury found her guilty of trafficking minors for Jeffrey Epstein. And now Donald Trump's Justice Department wants to talk to her. Ghislaine Maxwell. The Republican-controlled House Oversight Committee just voted to subpoena her. And Speaker Mike Johnson just announced he's literally shutting down Congress for the summer in order to block a vote on releasing the Epstein files and to make sure Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't testify on national television before the House Oversight Committee until Trump and his Justice Department figure out their next gambit. This is the Mop-Up. I'm David Feldman. Thank you so much for finding me. Please hit the notification bell so I remain in your feed. Plus, like this episode and subscribe to my channel, please. The Jeffrey Epstein story persists, but getting to the bottom of who's in his files will never improve the lives of Jeffrey Epstein's victims or prevent future ones. That ship already sailed. Now it's all about destroying political enemies. My side is hoping it's a treasure trove of foul-playing Republicans inside those Epstein files, and Republicans are hoping those files are filled with my Democratic heroes. While all of us know deep down inside, if there's anything truly incriminating in there, it was deep-sixed before Epstein ever died. Child sex trafficking is a serious problem, but this story will never address it, which is why Democrats should move on from this political distraction, because whatever is in those files, whatever Ghislaine Maxwell has to say before Jim Comer's MAGA-controlled House Oversight Committee, all of it will have zero bearing on next year's midterms. And yet, Trump's failure to release the Epstein files as of Tuesday has shut down our entire legislative branch until after Labor Day, so Republicans can buy time, meet with Maxwell, do some polling to find the right messaging, and of course make sure Trump and Attorney General Bam Bondi synchronize their stories. Thanks to the Epstein files, between now and mid-September, Congress will not take up any important votes, like the one on Ukraine. They're putting on hold now a popular bipartisan bill that would slap 500% tariffs on any country that buys oil from Russia. That bill, introduced by Republican Lindsey Graham and Democrat Richard Blumenthal, looked like it could actually pass in both houses this summer, but now, thanks to Epstein, it's been delayed until autumn as Putin intensifies his aerial assaults on Ukraine. For the first time ever, Donald Trump has openly broken with Putin, calling him absolutely crazy and issuing a 50-day ultimatum to stop the fighting in Ukraine. Otherwise, Trump threatened he would slap Russia with the very severe economic penalties contained within that bipartisan bill Congress was supposed to take up before the summer recess. That bill supposedly was going to pass, showing Putin that Trump is serious about ending the war in Ukraine and that Putin has 50 days to stop it. Otherwise, America would shut down Russia's oil business by slapping this 500% tariff on any country that buys oil from Russia. Now, by shutting Congress down for the summer, all because of the Epstein files, important government business is put on hold. A seemingly flustered Mike Johnson, forced to put the entire Republican agenda on hold, now blaming Democrats for politicizing the Epstein scandal, despite the preponderance of calls to release the files come primarily from within Trump's very own FBI and his entire MAGA universe. Mike Johnson telling reporters Tuesday he's sick of being lectured by Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on transparency. while at the same time, the speaker said we all needed to give Donald Trump, quote, space to figure out how he's going to proceed with the Epstein files, how Trump is going to proceed with the Epstein files, said Mike Johnson, who says he doesn't need any more lectures about transparency. We now have a Republican-controlled Congress, a Speaker of the House who fancies himself a constitutional scholar, now saying he's perfectly okay with the President of the United States knocking down the wall that separates the Justice Department from the White House. Speaker Mike Johnson thinks it's perfectly normal and legal for the entire Jeffrey Epstein investigation to be run through the Oval Office, despite Donald Trump being, let's just say, a person of interest. America's current Deputy Attorney General is Todd Blanche, who last year ran Trump's defense team in the Manhattan criminal trial, where the then presidential candidate was found guilty of falsifying business records. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, she's the Deputy Attorney General now, Todd Blanche announced Tuesday that on Attorney General Pam Bondi's orders, he has contacted Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney to determine whether she'd be willing to meet with him in order to see if she has any more information to share about sexual crimes that might have been committed against minors. Really, that's what this meeting is going to be about. To see if there's somebody linked to Epstein who should have been prosecuted, but because of an oversight, an administrative error, the Justice Department never got to him. Interesting. Blanche and Bondi have already seen the entirety of Epstein's files. They already know what's on those tapes, the high-profile names populating his flight logs. But for some reason, our Justice Department can't reopen the Epstein case until first meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. Interesting, as if they're completely in the dark about all the women and girls who have sued and or named Donald Trump, like Stacey Williams, a former Sports Illustrated model, brought to Trump Tower by Jeffrey Epstein, where our commander-in-chief, she said, reportedly groped her. Or maybe the Deputy Attorney General and Attorney General, instead of holding this important meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell to get to the bottom of all this, maybe instead they would like to talk to Epstein's former employee, Maria Farmer, who went to the FBI in 1996, urging the FBI to investigate not just Jeffrey Epstein, but Donald Trump as well. Seems to me Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche should start with those two women before rushing off to talk with Ghislaine Maxwell to see if Ghislaine Maxwell, who knows she's never going to get pardoned unless she agrees to zip her mouth shut, they're going to meet with her to see if she can shed any more light on the Epstein case. Sure. On July 6, Pam Bondi announced the entire Epstein investigation was over. She insisted there was never any client list and that Epstein died from suicide. To quell any doubts, she released raw footage from the surveillance camera outside Epstein's jail cell with only 3 minutes missing. Only 3 minutes missing. What's the big deal about 3 minutes? But for some reason, Trump's entire base, which believes his entire D.C. mission is breaking up an international child trafficking ring, that base, the MAGA universe, exploded. They accused Donald Trump of being part of the cover-up and not being truthful. Donald Trump? Not being truthful? The man who had unprotected sex with a porn star just weeks after his wife, Melania, gave him a son? That Donald Trump? Playing fast and loose with the truth? And now, thanks to Donald Trump, the Justice Department, Republicans, and Ghislaine Maxwell, all trying to get their stories straight, Washington is having a mini government shutdown. And they're not even raising the debt ceiling over it. The Epstein files have become the proverbial traffic accident, pretty much a minor fender bender where the traffic jam created by rubberneckers becomes a bigger story than the actual car crash. The real story isn't what's in the files because that's a red herring. The real story is the story. Washington is shutting down simply because everyone is staring at this 20-car pileup. The Epstein story has crippled our FBI with nobody able to verify whether Deputy Director Dan Bongino, who went ballistic after Bondi closed the Epstein investigation, whether he is even still working there. The House of Representatives is now going on early recess, with Mike Johnson, the Speaker, admitting he wants to delay a vote on releasing the Epstein files until Trump can figure out what to do. He's dismissing Congress until Trump can figure out how to handle the Epstein files. And now the Trump Justice Department says it needs to first speak with Ghislaine Maxwell before Donald Trump decides whether to reopen the Epstein inquest where he is, shall we say, a person of interest. Because that's how all criminal investigations proceed. Everybody knows this. First, you check with the prime suspects to make sure they're okay with the FBI getting all up in their business. I mean, it's just common decency. Before Pam Bondi reopened up this investigation into human trafficking, before she reopens up this investigation into human trafficking, she has to check with all the potential targets to make sure they're okay with it. Like when she indicted Kilmore Abrego Garcia for human trafficking, all based on a fix-it ticket. Garcia was pulled over in 2022 for speeding. The Tennessee State Trooper didn't even give him a ticket. He gave Garcia a citation for driving with an expired license, sent him on his way, and from that one traffic stop, Pam Bondi has been able to turn it into a criminal indictment for human trafficking. How come the cop who pulled Garcia over isn't being disciplined? The cop stops Garcia, and we've seen the body cam, and from the body cam video, Pam Bondi was able to build a human trafficking indictment, and yet that same officer only gave Garcia a citation, not even a ticket, and sent him on his way. Shouldn't that cop be disciplined for allowing the mastermind of an international human smuggling ring like Kilmar Abrego Garcia slip through his hands? We should have the name of that Tennessee State Trooper. He should be disciplined. Here's what Kristi Noem, the head of our Department for Homeland Security, said after Pam Bondi indicted Garcia for human trafficking. This is what she said, quote, "I'm grateful that this man is being brought to justice. He has a lifetime of trafficking individuals and of taking advantage of minors, soliciting pornography from them, nude photos from them, abusing other illegals that were in his custody, and women that were under his care while he was trafficking them." Kristi Noem went on to say, "Garcia is a horrible human being and a monster, and he should never be released free. I hope this judge," she went on to say, "does the right thing and brings this man to justice for the crimes that he has committed. The evidence," she said, "is overwhelming. Quote, this judge needs to make sure that he applies the law equally to every single person that shows up in his courtroom." That's what our Director of Homeland Security, puppy killer Kristi Noem, said about Garcia. despite the judge in the case saying the evidence is wafer thin and adding witnesses for the prosecution seem unreliable. But according to Kristi Noem, Garcia is a monster. You know how I know he's not a monster? Because Kristi Noem hasn't hired him yet to work for ICE. But Kristi Noem said, quote, "This judge needs to make sure that he applies the law equally to every single person that shows up in his courtroom," which is precisely why our Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who up until January of this year was Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer, that's why he is going to meet personally with Ghislaine Maxwell to make sure the law is applied equally. We're being told Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche's meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell is to determine whether she would be a cooperating witness. Yeah, but cooperating with whom? Epstein's victims or Donald Trump? Again, there's only one thing Ghislaine Maxwell wants, and that is to get out of prison. There are even hints Trump has waived a pardon in front of Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, David Oscar Marcus, with whom, according to the New York Times, Todd Blanche, our Deputy Attorney General, seems to have a cozy relationship. Turns out they're friends. What are the odds? Again, Ghislaine Maxwell only wants one thing: to get out of prison. She doesn't want to blow the entire Epstein story wide open and bring down all the rich and powerful men who enjoyed her forbidden fruits. She wants to get out of prison, get out of America, move back to England, and put all of this behind her. So she'll do whatever she's told. When Todd Blanche meets with her, what do you think the discussions will be about? Do you think our Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is going to say to Ghislaine Maxwell, "What are you not telling us?" Or will he ask, "You're not going to be telling us anything now, are you?" Do you honestly believe Todd Blanche doesn't already know what Ghislaine Maxwell isn't telling us? The entire purpose of the meeting is, will you go away quietly if Donald Trump pardons you? She is also about to be subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee. In what universe does this not have the appearance of witness tampering? Donald Trump's very own criminal attorney, Todd Blanche, now Deputy Attorney General, is meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell before Democrats on the House Oversight Committee get a chance to question her about his client, Donald Trump. Again, the story isn't what's in the Epstein files. We're never going to see what's in the Epstein files, and whatever does get released won't be good enough for anyone. The real story is we have a Justice Department providing pro bono legal services to the President of the United States. It has never been this blatant. But Democrats, Republicans, and the media still hold out false hope we will get to the bottom of the Epstein files. And the Epstein files will suck up all the oxygen until something else comes along, and it will. Reminds me of the summer of 2001, the summer of 2001. It was George W. Bush's first year in office, and the entire news cycle was dominated by whether 53-year-old Democratic Congressman Gary Condit murdered 23-year-old Chandra Levy, a Bureau of Prisons intern with whom Condit was conducting an extramarital affair. Every morning, reporters stood outside the home of Chandra Levy's parents, and every morning, her parents demanded justice for their missing daughter. This was the lead story all summer. The stakeout in front of Chandra Levy's childhood home continued all summer because we had to get to the bottom of her murder. She was missing. Was she murdered? It was the single most important issue of the day right up until September 10th, 2001, because Osama bin Laden on September 11th, 2001, changed the news cycle. In an instant, the entire country forgot about Chandra Levy and Gary Condit, a 53-year-old congressman having sex with a woman 30 years his junior, who ended up missing and we later found out dead. According to the news media, first, it was the single biggest issue facing our country, and then suddenly, who's Chandra Levy? Epstein died while Trump was president. And it was Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, who personally oversaw the FBI's entire investigation into the Epstein matter. We know how Barr buried the Mueller report, rewrote the narrative entirely. But the Epstein story? Jeffrey Epstein, the same Epstein Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, hired to teach at Dalton, even though Epstein is a college dropout? Bill Barr, whose father wrote science fiction novels about powerful men using children as sex slaves? That Bill Barr, when it came to Jeffrey Epstein, he most certainly called for full transparency and told everybody in the Justice Department, let the chips fall where they may. Sure he did. The only chips he allowed to fall were of the potato variety into his pie hole. Trump is currently suing Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal for its so-called groundbreaking investigation into Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. How Trump wrote funny messages to Epstein and made salacious drawings mocking the secrets the two shared. We're told this story is just the tip of the iceberg. None of this will ever see the light of day inside a courtroom. And Trump, who knows more about courtrooms than any defense attorney, is fully aware of that. Trump knows exactly what's in the Epstein files and whether there's anything left in there that could incriminate him. There are countless women who have come forward claiming they were groped by Trump in the presence of Jeffrey Epstein. There's video we all saw of Trump and Epstein sharing their obvious lust for younger women. Trump is quoted as saying, Jeffrey Epstein's a friend of mine, adding, he likes very young women. At the very least, Donald Trump knew who Epstein was, but hung around him anyway. Under normal circumstances, that would, at the very least, call Trump's judgment into question. But none of this is going to damage Trump. So I can't help but feel Trump is playing with us right now. I suspect Trump knows there's nothing in those files, and Ghislaine Maxwell either has nothing on him or is going to keep her mouth shut. I have no doubt Trump wants us to think he's hiding something. Why? Donald Trump literally controls markets. King Canute couldn't manipulate the tides, but Trump moves markets. One day he says there's a tariff on China, the stock market plunges. Next day he lifts the tariff, stock market explodes. And the same goes for the news cycles. Nobody is better at slathering the internet with red meat than Donald Trump. He governs through news cycles. He writes the media's hymnal, then waves his baton as the chorus of mainstream media stenographers sing along. This Epstein file garbage is just a laser pointer the kitty cats in the media chase, thinking it's real, all to distract us from the millions of lives Trump's destroying by empowering ICE while destroying U.S. aid, FEMA, Medicaid, food stamps, and the climate. I don't think there's anything in those Epstein files that incriminates Trump, because Trump is from the Nixon should have burnt the tapes school of Republicans. Trump and Roger Stone and boomers from that generation could never understand why Nixon didn't say, these are my tapes, they're protected by executive privilege, it's national security, I destroyed them. But Nixon, unlike Trump, had some respect for the rule of law. And it was that respect for the rule of law that taught a new generation of Republicans, burn the evidence. If there's anything inside those Epstein files incriminating Trump, they've been long gone. He destroyed them. Not only that, but Trump's already using the chain of custody defense that his attorney, Alan Dershowitz, helped dream up for O.J. Simpson. The accusation that evidence had been contaminated by rogue cops trying to railroad him. Trump is insisting right now there's plenty of evidence in the Epstein files that isn't credible because Biden shoved stuff in there. Am I interested in the Epstein story? Of course. How can you not be? And Trump understands our appetite better than any politician out there. He knows how to feed us while at the same time give his administration a respite from having to answer for its cruelty and incompetence. Epstein is the distraction he needs for the summer, because each day brings fresh horrors of U.S. citizens rounded up by ICE, disabled veterans who are U.S. citizens rounded up by ICE, stories of children handcuffed, migrants piled into overcrowded for-profit jail cells with clogged open toilets and no access to potable water, food, or medicine. FEMA completely blew it in Texas, and hurricane season is just underway. Trump's only preparation for America's next natural disaster is poll-tested spin on who to blame other than FEMA and his budget cuts. Americans, once again, soon will be left broken, stranded, and Trump will say, nobody could have seen this once-in-a-thousand-year Category 4 hurricane coming. Nobody could see it because you shut down the Weather Service. And then when he's asked if his budget cuts to FEMA contributed to the loss of lives, Trump will demand to know the name of the reporter who asked that question, and then tell that reporter only a sick and evil person could ask a question like that at a time like this. Trump's poll numbers are tanking. He promised to solve Gaza and Ukraine on day one, but the situations there are now far, far worse. The Houthis are still firing weapons into Israel. They're firing weapons at commercial shipping, despite Trump bragging that his missile strikes back in March were a success. Iran's nuclear program wasn't affected by his attacks. Inflation up. No trade deals have been signed, despite Trump's insistence, I just made one with Japan or China. Millions are about to get thrown off Medicaid and food stamps, the budget deficit and the national debt skyrocketing. Trump knows. He knows he's failing. He also knows this so-called Epstein cover-up is light summer reading at the beach for an exhausted America that doesn't want to focus on all the real tragedies Trump and his Republican Party have wrought. The Epstein files are his red herring. I believe that. I believe Trump is rope-a-doping. He wants us to believe he can't control the narrative when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein story. But that's all Trump knows how to do, is control the narrative, which is why Democrats need to turn the page. Because last year's election proved there's zero political hay to be made, proving once and for all that Donald Trump is a degenerate criminal. While MAGA world implodes over the Epstein cover-up, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer need to focus on the midterms. And there is nothing in those Epstein files that will have any bearing on taking back the Senate or the House of Representatives next year. The only thing that's going to stop Trump is Democrats winning back either the Senate or the House next year. And according to reporting in The Hill, congressional Republicans right now are seeing their highest approval ratings in more than a decade. That's right. I said Republicans are seeing their highest approval rating in more than a decade. You ever wonder how Mike Johnson and the Republicans and Trump somehow smile through all their treachery? This is why. It's working. Not for the country, but with voters, or at least registered voters who are asked to choose between congressional Republicans and congressional Democrats, asked to choose. They prefer congressional Republicans. Registered voters, according to the latest polling, don't think Democrats deserve to win back the House and Senate. But what about the Epstein files? Yeah, turns out American voters find it's a trifling, a distraction that will only reveal what they already know about rich and powerful men. According to a PBS NPR Marist poll, 36% of registered voters say Republicans are doing a good job in Congress. 36% voters saw what's in the 2026 budget, and still 36% of them gave congressional Republicans their highest approval rating since 2011. Now, 36% is bad, but only 27% of registered voters say they approve of the job congressional Democrats are doing. That's a nearly 10% differential. Congressional Republicans are nearly 10% more popular than congressional Democrats. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal isn't going to help. You're in trouble for the midterms, Democrats. Now, granted, that's a national poll. The House and Senate are won state by state, district by district, but history dictates that when there's that big a gap between the parties going into the midterms, the party leading the other one by nearly 10 points, they tend to win both houses in the midterms. So you got a problem, Democrats. Where's your messaging? Right now, it's Jeffrey Epstein and the cruelties of the 2026 budget cuts. But you're not going to win by reminding voters of how cruel and corrupt Republicans are. Voters already know that. You have to offer voters a reason to vote for you. Voters don't care if Democrats have more compassion and integrity than Republicans. You can't simply run on a promise to reverse Trump's cuts to Medicaid, food stamps, and green energy incentives. You can't run on saying, we're on defense, vote for us. Vote for us, we're going to reverse these cuts to Medicaid and food stamps. You mean if I vote for you, things will return to the way they were 2 years ago when we were all so happy with the status quo? Wow, you Democrats are visionaries. I can't wait to vote for the party that will return this country to the status quo of 2024, because we were all so happy with the status quo in 2024. That's why voters elected Kamala Harris, and Democrats took back the House and kept the Senate. Oh, wait, they didn't. Right now, all establishment Democrats are offering voters are the conditions that gave rise to Trump. A return to 2024. You got to do better, way better. But the Democratic leadership listens to consultants and pollsters who hand them expensive white papers showing that boxing Republicans into a corner on Jeffrey Epstein is a winning message. It's not. Last year, a jury found Donald Trump civilly liable for rape in the common law parlance, and he ended up winning the popular vote and the Electoral College for the first time. Trump is a horrible human being. Most of his voters don't care, and the others vote for him because he's a horrible human being. So call your Democratic member of Congress and tell them, promise me stuff, or I'm staying home on Election Day. Free health care, free daycare, free childcare, free tuition at all public colleges and universities, clean, safe, affordable housing, and green energy. Those are, to name just a few of the things Democrats need to be promising right now. Last year, the Democrats lost with their message, which was, we won't go back. But their new message is, we will go back. Vote for us, and we'll take you back to 2024. We don't want that, Democrats. We want more than just returning Medicaid spending to 2024 levels. And unless Democrats offer a real populist agenda, we're going to go back further than 2024. We're going back to 1933 Berlin. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak, and call your members of Congress, call your Democratic members of Congress and say, promise me something. If you enjoyed any of this, please subscribe to my channel, my newsletter, hit the notifications bell so I remain in your feed. Thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room for keeping the conversation civil. Leave a comment. I read all your comments. I made a mistake on the last show. The U.S. Marine, who was a U.S. citizen, rounded up by ICE, was arrested in Camarillo, California, and not Camarillo, Texas. I stand corrected. If I made any other mistakes, let me know in the comments section. I will see you tomorrow.